so that I can do the next piece. And who just went? Is it my turn?
It's your turn to welcome, and then it'll be Dre doing the land acknowledgement.
Perfect. Hello, everybody. I am so sorry. This has been a catastrophe of errors with nature and the internet, but here we are, and I'm so glad to see all your faces. Thank you all for coming. I will say that this has been the most challenging summit I think we've ever tried to do. And I see our founder, Jim, on the line here, and I'm sure he can vouch for the fact that no summit has ever happened this way. So glad to have you all here with us. Everyone here, my Mockingbird Fellows, are amazing human beings to make this happen. And I thank every single one of you. And I would like to introduce Dre from our Everett chapter and ask him to read our land acknowledgement.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dre Thornock. I am an Everett chapter leader. I use all respectable pronouns, and I'm going to be opening us up today with our land and racial equity acknowledgement. I invite you to pause, be quiet, and reflect as we open with this acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Coast Salish, Interior Salish, and Yakima Nation tribes, and to thank them for allowing us onto their land. They took care of this land before it was colonized, and they continue to care for, honor, and defend their land. We honor with gratitude the land itself and all of the Native tribes of Washington State. I would also like to acknowledge the historical and systemic exploitation and oppression of Indigenous peoples, enslaved Africans, and other historically underinvested people, which has led to the disproportionality in representation of these communities among the youth we serve and whose voices we seek to elevate. I ask that we keep this in mind as we work to transform the systems that have and continue to impact us. Now I welcome Annie Blackledge, our Executive Director, back for opening remarks.
Thank you, Dre. I'd like to ask everyone to continue in that mode of meditation. Can everybody hear me? I should ask. Okay, yay, thank you. I'd like us to continue in that train of meditation, and I would like to ask everyone who is not a part of Mockingbird to close your eyes for a moment with me, and I'd like to guide you through a few questions. We've all been through an awful lot lately with the lockdown and fighting for civil rights and human rights. And I think it's been eye-opening to most of us. At least I hope so. I would like to draw our attention to the fact that many of us have not been able to see family members that we love, that we have been isolated in our homes, not being able to connect with our neighbors, and not being able to connect with our friends. I would like to say for many of us, we have not been able to go home or see our parents and people that we love. And what I'd really like to draw people's attention to is that, and I say this as an alumni of foster care, so all my fellow alumni with their eyes open, I see you and I love you. We went through this every single day of our childhood. Most of us, this is the way that we have grown up. And for most of you, this is an eye-opening experience and a little window into what it's like to be in foster care or to experience homelessness as a young person, not people, but you're my people. And I just really hope we can carry the spirit with us and the fact that we are living on land of people who are disproportionately represented in our child welfare, juvenile justice, and homelessness systems of care, and Black and Brown people as well, Latinx, Latina, Pacific Islander, and Asian Americans. We got a lot of work to do, and I think our young people have a lot of important things to say to you to hear today. And I will, with that, ask you to open your eyes and carry that spirit with you here today. I want to thank our sponsors. We have so many wonderful people who've made it possible for us to even do this today. the Administrative Office of the Courts, Casey Family Programs, the Office of Homeless Youth, Department of Commerce, I guess I should say. We know you as OHY, though, and we love you, OHY folks. And to say that without them, we could not be here today. And I hope that we are entering a new era of big change because it's time. Our young people are going to tell you how it's time in the spaces that they occupy. So thank you for that. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to, we have the most amazing board president, Tasha West, is going to offer up a few words here for us next. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. As Annie said, hello, my name is Tasha West Baker, and it is my honor to be the chair of the board of directors for the Mockingbird Society. I am so glad that each and every one of you is here today. So I'm just going to get right into it. At the beginning of each year, one of my favorite pastors gives his followers a word for the year. This year, that word was stronger. I know, right? 2020 has definitely not felt very strong. However, this year, I also had my own word, which was vision. When most of us think of vision, we think of things that we can see with our eyes. Coincidentally, 2020 is the numerical assignment for clear sight. You'll notice I didn't say vision. You see sight is what we can see with our natural eyes, but vision is what we see inside our hearts and our minds that has not yet come to fruition. If I can say anything about this crazy 2020 year, it has been a highlighter. It has simultaneously highlighted some of our greatest strengths as well as some of our greatest weaknesses, both as individuals and as a nation. 2020 has highlighted our biggest differences as well as our greatest similarities. This year brought about great pain as we witnessed the senseless and needless murders of Black men and women. But this year also brought about the cries and calls for great change. Going back to my words for the year, stronger vision. I am here today to ensure you that we see you and we hear you. The board and the staff of the Mockingbird Society are committed, invested, and driven by the stronger vision of being an anti-racist organization, one that examines itself and makes the needed adjustments to live its values. An unknown author said, "It is not enough to be quietly non-racist. It is now the time to be vocally anti-racist." This organization has and will continue to fight and advocate for the breaking down of systemic racism and oppressions of all kinds within the systems that most impact your lives. But we need all of your skills, your talents, your gifts, your frustrations, and your hard conversations to do it. I believe in my heart and soul that all of us are purposed to be here at this moment in history, and that there is something that will not get accomplished unless we do it. So our time is now. In the words of my shero, Angela Davis, I am no longer accepting the things that I cannot change. I am changing the things that I cannot accept. We will and we must work together to change what we can no longer accept. Thank you so much for being here. I will now turn it over to Esther.
I know that's right.
Yes. Thank you, Tasha, and thank you, Annie, for those welcoming remarks. Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Esther Taylor. I attend Walla Walla University, and I am a strategic communication major with a strong passion and desire to change the foster care system. Also, I am a leadership team member for the Mockingbird Society. Welcome to our 15th annual Youth and Alumni Leadership Summit and first ever virtual summit event. This is my first summit, and I'm so glad to be here with each and every one of you. And this is the time we're all excited for. We will invite Mockingbird 7 chapters and network representatives to present to the Washington State Supreme Court Commission on Children in Foster Care and the Office of Homeless Youth Advisory Committee, all our policymakers and community partners. There are a lot of great things happening throughout this event that you can look forward to. Here's the agenda for today's event. We will have opening remarks from the commission and the committee, part 1 of summit video presentations, a 5-minute break, part 2 of summit video presentations, closing remarks from the commission and committee, awards and recognitions, and closing. Just a reminder that we are streaming on YouTube Live, so hello to everyone that is tuning in, and thank you for being here with us. If you have any questions or comments during this event, use the chats. It will be monitored by a designated person, and as a reminder, the chats are public. Also, for technical issues that may arise during today's event, text or call the number 503-539-9845 for assistance. Now, I invite Justice Barbara Madsen, the co-chair of the Washington State Supreme Court Commission on Foster Care.
Justice Madsen?
I am now live.
Oh, perfect. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for putting this summit together in extraordinarily difficult circumstances. Again, my name is Barbara Madsen. I sit on the Washington Supreme Court. My pronouns are she, her. I co-chair the Commission on Children in Foster Care with Jody Becker. Jody Becker is with the DCYF, and together we convene quarterly meetings in order to hear the concerns, ideas, interests of people who work in the field of foster care and child welfare. The mission of the commission, I think, is important, and I want to repeat that for those of you who may not be as familiar with our mission. And that is the mission of the Washington State Supreme Court Commission on Children in Foster Care is to provide all children in foster care with safe, permanent families in which their physical, emotional, intellectual, and social needs are met. And why is this summit so important? Because as adults, we can only do so much. As people in leadership, we can only do so much. But we have limitations because we only understand it from our adult perspective, from our leadership perspective in whatever organization we may be associated with. But we don't understand it, most of us anyway, from living it every day. And these summits are so critical for the commission and our members to understand how it feels to walk these paths every day of your life with all of the challenges that are involved in being a foster child. And even when you age out, the problems that are present for you, unlike for many other people. This summit gives us an opportunity to hear how it feels when leadership takes particular positions, when it fails, or in fact, does provide the things that you need. You give us such insight, you have such important things to say, and we just value so much the energy and the effort, the ideas, the spirit that all of you have brought to this summit, but that you bring to our lives. Thank you again from my heart for doing this work in a really tough circumstance, and I look forward so much to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, Justice Madsen, for taking the time to share with us. Now, I invite Kim Justice, the Director of the Office of Homeless Youth Prevention and Protection Programs Advisory Committee.
Hi, everyone. Hello, Mockingbird family. I'm Kim Justice. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Homeless Youth, which is located within the State Department of Commerce. And as always, it's such an honor to have the Office of Homeless Youth participate in this event. And I just want to start with some gratitude. I want to thank the members of our advisory committee who are joining today, as well as the Office of Homeless Youth staff. Huge thanks to the Mockingbird Society for so skillfully organizing this event, especially given the pivot to a virtual venue. I want to thank Justice Madsen and the Commission for sharing this important platform with us. And most of all, thank you to the young people who are here today to share your expertise and solutions to transform foster care and end youth homelessness. When I think about what it takes for all of you to remain so focused on your advocacy efforts amidst the global pandemic and our country's reckoning with racism, the words that come to mind are unstoppable, courageous, audacious. That we are all together today for the summit is a testament to those qualities. Our world has been turned upside down and inside out. Have you noticed how priorities really come into sharp focus during times like this? I've certainly noticed that for myself personally as well as professionally. It's like the things that don't matter tend to fall away, and the things that do matter become amplified, like the importance of having a stable home where you can be safe and healthy. The COVID outbreak has amplified the public health impacts of homelessness. It's really quite simple. People need housing in order to protect their health and the health of everyone else around them. Another priority that has been amplified is the importance of affirming that Black Lives Matter and dismantling the systems of white supremacy. Racism has been baked into our institutions and systems, and it's simply no longer acceptable to allow that to continue. People of color disproportionately experience homelessness, the foster care system. They've been disproportionately impacted by the COVID outbreak, and they're disproportionately impacted by the economic downturn. We can't allow that story to continue. Those can no longer be the talking points around the data. This is a time where I feel like advocacy from young people matters more than ever. It's young people that are leading the way and shaping the path forward. It's the ideas and the vision of young people that will create a better future for everyone. So today, we're looking to you for wisdom and guidance. And we offer our open hearts and our open minds and extend ourselves to you in partnership. So thank you. Thanks so much again for hosting this event and allowing us to be part of it. And yes, I'm wearing my Mockingbird t-shirt from last summit. Thanks for noticing, Regina.
Thank you, Kim Justice, for those remarks, and thank you for speaking on Black Lives Matter. There is more where that came from. We've got more great things to come for our 2020 virtual summit. That being said, we are now going to watch a summit introduction video. Enjoy.
Mockingbird's Youth Leadership Summit is a time where youth from across the state come with our adult partners, and we gather and voice our year-long thought-out process and opinions of what's wrong with the system, what we need to change, and how the youth think we want to change it. Mockingbird has taught me that this is how we're going to change things, by passing the mic to youth, and we don't have to rely on an adult to speak for us.
It's important for young people to advocate for change because I genuinely believe they are the future. This is their world too. They have to grow up in it. They have to grow old in it. They should have the chance to have a say in what it's like. I think it's really important for youth, especially with lived experience, to feel empowered because as a vulnerable population, it's very hard to go through life and to figure out your way and get things done if you don't feel empowered and you feel small.
You're not just here to listen to adults speak. You're not just here to listen to legislators speak. You're here to speak. Something that was really different, mind-blowing for me at Summit was seeing how many youth are standing next to me. I didn't know that youth had lived experience that was similar to mine until I went to Summit. It was definitely like a life-changing experience. Just be there and have that support next to you, because when you're telling your lived experience and your life story, we have a chapter member to your right, to your left, in front of you. You have an audience of alumni and board members who want to support you and help you. And I think that right there really made an impact. We're not alone. We share this as a group, and we're not just this one case anymore. We're going to stand together and make that change together.
I've gotten to meet so many new people who have the same values and drives that I do. They really made me feel validated and heard, and like what we're doing is meaningful.
Every time I step foot on this campus, I know that I've made a change here, and I will continue to make changes here. And the youth that walk with me will continue that legacy too. We will not give up.
Having this virtual platform really opens it up to everybody. So it's very important and significant that we're still showing up just in a different way and still making the work happen in a different way.
Truly amazing video montage of what each young person within the Mockingbird Society is doing and speaking up within the foster care system. Thank you guys for using your voices. Thank you guys for making sure you are heard. We hear you and we appreciate you. And we are going to continue to do the work that is put forward in front of us. Now we are moving on to the video presentations. And for this portion, each chapter's video presentations will be shown. After each video, there will be 5 minutes for questions and comments from members of the Commission and OHY Advisory Committee. We ask that Commission and committee members let us know in the chat box if they have questions or comments. Please type "I have a question" and or comment in the chat box, and someone will gladly assist you. First up, I'd like to pass it to the Yakima chapter to introduce their team.
Come on, I can hear you. Sorry. Hello. I will pass it on to Heaven, my chapter leader for Yakima, and she would like to introduce us.
Thank you, Jade. Hi, my name is Heaven Calvert. I am one of the Yakima chapter leaders. Yakima has brought with us today Jade Tillaquatz, our engagement coordinator, Dorian Brakovich, who is also my coworker, the other chapter leader for Yakima. We also have Tiana Tillaquatz as a chapter member. We have Anixa, Cheyenne as also members of our Yakima chapter. And then we also have Karina, who is Yakima's ally.
Yes. And we also have a newcomer, her first time ever being to Summit and her first time ever being a part of Mockingbird. And that is Yesenia Garcia. She is also with us as well. And with that, I'd like you guys to enjoy our video.
Imagine you're a child who has just entered the foster care system. You've never been in a courtroom before. You don't know what to say or what you can do. The judge asks you something, but you're so nervous and you don't understand what they're asking. You're unable to say what you want because you're afraid you won't be heard. You don't have anyone to help you communicate your needs and advocate for what you want. It seems everyone else except you has an attorney. You're told you can ask for legal representation, but you have no idea of how to seek guidance for the process. We are the Yakima chapter of the Mockingbird Society. Our goal is to make sure each and every child and youth in foster care is granted a well-trained and qualified lawyer before they step foot in a courtroom.
Youth in foster care don't know their legal rights. They aren't able to argue for their rights and can't advocate for themselves in the court system because legal terms are confusing, courts are intimidating, and not all youth get lawyers. Our state doesn't require lawyers for children and youth in foster care. In 12 counties, youth are automatically given a lawyer when they turn a certain age, but that leaves 27 counties where youth have no automatic attorney. Youth can request an attorney and the court has to consider certain factors, but it's still a case-by-case decision for most children in Washington.
Youth might miss out on having normalcy in their lives and finding permanency if they are unable to advocate for themselves. The interim report from the Office of Civil Legal Aid shows that having an attorney gets youth to permanency faster. In addition, your attorney makes sure your voice will be heard in developing a permanency plan and representing your interests in the permanency hearing. Permanency lets you reestablish normalcy and find a sense of family and belonging. Unfortunately, 74% of children and youth in Washington stay in care longer than 15 months.
This issue affects all children and youth in care because all youth should have a chance to argue for what they want and should know their legal rights.
This is an important issue to youth statewide, but also to members of our chapter. This issue is a legacy issue which has been raised for years by youth at the Mockingbird Society.
When I was in foster care, I had an attorney, though that wasn't the norm for most of my other peers in foster care. I was a shy and timid kid. I didn't like to speak up, and being in the spotlight terrified me. I'd never had to advocate for myself, and I didn't even know where to start. I didn't know how to ask adults for something without expecting it to automatically be a no, and I didn't know how to tell adults what I wanted without expecting them to not listen. I'd never been to court before. When I got my attorney, she was able to explain my rights to me in a language that a 13 to 15-year-old would understand. She encouraged me to speak up for what I wanted because she was there to help me fight and advocate for that. I didn't feel alone in the courtroom because she was right beside me during the proceedings, answering any questions I had and generally giving me her support whenever I had to speak up. My little brother was able to stay in a house where he was safe and I would be able to visit him because that's what I wanted, and she advocated for that to happen. I was able to find my forever home, and I was adopted by my mother, Candy, on May 15th of 2015 because my lawyer advocated for me and where I wanted to be.
Our goal is to provide all children and youth with normalcy and permanency in their lives. An attorney can help teach youth about their rights in language they can understand easily and provide the tools to advocate for themselves in the courtroom. CASA and GAL work for what they believe to be in the youth's best interest, whereas a lawyer would represent the legal and stated interest of the youth. We believe even babies and young children have rights that need to be protected and would benefit from lawyers. This can ultimately be achieved by granting each and every child and youth an attorney at their shelter care hearing, which is a hearing that occurs within 72 hours of the child or youth entering the foster care system.
We here at the Mockingbird Society constantly strive to make sure that along with the benefits of normalcy and permanency, the barriers we overcome are equitable and fair for everyone. Youth of color are more affected by these issues as there is a disproportionate amount of youth of color in care due to systematic bias that led to more youth of color and Native American youth to be removed from their parents and placed into foster care. But guaranteeing a lawyer to all children and youth in care in Washington, it provides justice for all children and youth regardless of where they live and who they are. This solution will affect all children and youth in care that have an active dependency case with the courts and will give a youth direct voice which can advocate against and prevent systematic racism.
Recently, we've all been in uncertain times with the coronavirus outbreak, causing most people to change some aspect of their lives. With sibling visitations being cut due to COVID-19, it is even more critical to have lawyers during these times of crisis. The state is also making decisions about visitation and other services because of COVID-19, and it's important to have oversight and accountability from attorneys.
This isn't the first time the Mockingbird Society has tried to overcome this issue. Our tenacity helped us get a study from the Office of Civil Legal Aid from 2017 to 2020 in 4 counties. Preliminary results from this study initially proved positive. By providing all children and youth in care with a lawyer in the 2 variable counties in the study, permanency was sped up by roughly 22%. The final report will calculate cost savings to the state. The federal government is also now reimbursing the state for part of the cost of legal representation for children and parents. The final report will be coming out in December of this year, but so far it reads beneficial to our cause.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, well, thank you so much for watching our video. Now we'll be opening it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Dorian and the Yakima chapter. That was so amazing. My name is Lauren Frederick, and I'm the Public Policy Manager here at the Mockingbird Society, and I will be facilitating us through the Q&A portion of the presentations today. So I really want to recognize that that video was amazing. It's the first time that I have gotten to see it. So thank you for that. Yes. And I'm looking at the chat box. I'm sorry. I also forgot to say my pronouns are she, her, hers. I apologize for that. I'm looking at the chat box and want to call on folks who have indicated in the chat that they have a question or a comment. So the first person who has indicated that is Lori Lippold. Lori, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, hi, thank you everybody. Lori Lippold, she, her, hers pronouns. That was amazing. It's really a comment. You answered the questions that I would have had. It was so clear, it was so fantastic, and Heaven, you used the word tenacity. It's what came to my mind. The tenacious approach of you all and others at Mockingbird to keep the focus on this issue, I think is absolutely phenomenal, and I am grateful for all you are doing, and just could not be, there's a word I'll use, cavelling more, which is like just gushing with pride. So anyway, thank you. It was fantastic.
Thank you, Lori. This is something that Mockingbird has brought up a few times, and we really want to see it through to the end.
Thanks, Lori. Next up in the chat, it looks like we have Tanya, who is a member of the Commission on Foster Care. I should also say, Yakima, if you can't see the chat, there's probably 10 or 12 comments about just how amazing that was. So you're getting a lot of love coming through the chat for you all. Tanya, please go ahead with your comment.
Thank you. Tanya, she, her, hers. And I just want to say that was an awesome presentation, very profound. And I think it's a crying shame, the youth and children who do not get attorneys. You're right, it's very weighted and tilted system. And any way that I could help you push this through, I think I mean, this is just great work, a great ask, and I don't think you're asking that much. So let me know any way I can help support.
Thanks, Tanya. We will, oh, sorry, I have an echo on my end. We will absolutely let you know how you and the commission can support this this request. Next up, it looks like we have Jim Bamberger with a comment. Please go ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Lauren. And thank you to all of the Yakima team. Can you hear me? Nod yes?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. You have captured the essence of the issue extraordinarily well. One of the things that we at the Office of Civil Legal Aid, and my colleague Jill Mallett, who's our Children's Rep Program Manager, is also here. I should say I'm a member of the commission, and I go by he, him pronouns. One of the things that we care deeply about was well presented in your presentation, which is the notion of disproportionality, particularly as it relates to children of color, Indigenous children, children who identify as non-gender conforming, and others who have specific barriers that serve as obstacles to their ability to secure normalcy and permanency. And while I think we have a long way to go to achieve universal representation rights for foster children, children in the child welfare system, it strikes me, and I'd appreciate your thoughts on a gradual approach that focuses particularly on children and youth who have the most significant barriers to permanency, including those of color, BIPOC children and youth, and children who are also experiencing other barriers, including gender nonconformity barriers. So I'd appreciate your thoughts on that.
Well, Jim, I actually really appreciate that you brought that up. This was something that we've kind of thought about. So the very purpose, hold on. So asking for an incremental approach for something like this kind of undermines the idea of kind of what we're asking. That being said, especially with kind of things going on the way they are, I realize that what we're asking is, very blunt, and it's a lot to ask. So I'm sure that, over the course of however long this takes, I'm sure that, my chapter and I, we can actually talk and confer about this and figure out a more concrete way to, incrementally get into something like this. But because if we were to start breaking it up now, that kind of falls under what we like to call justice by geography. And, it kind of goes against the idea of what we're asking, hold on, lost my train of thought for a second. Where's I going with that? Anyways, yeah, my chapter and I will be more than happy to talk about this and get back to you on that.
I also wanted to pop in real quick, if I may. Part of what we understand that we might have to look at an incremental approach, but part of that is we really don't want to weigh trauma against trauma, and we don't want to pit groups of youth against each other. What we really want to do is include all youth in being able to advocate for their legal rights.
And we respect and support that, and thank you for keeping your eyes on that big prize.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yakima chapter. So two comments. I see that there are a couple more comments or questions that folks have in the chat, but we need to wrap up this portion with Yakima and be able to move on to the next chapter. So if we didn't get to your comment or question, please type it out in the chat and we'll make sure to be able to follow up with you. Also, Yakima chapter, just so you know, we've got 140 people watching the live stream so far on YouTube, and they are also sending out a lot of love. So I hope you are feeling that. So thank you for your wise responses to those questions. And at this point, I would love to turn it over to the Everett chapter.
Hey, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi all, my name is Charles Atkins. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the Everett Chapter's engagement coordinator with the Mockingbird Society. I believe that we have two of our chapter members here with us. We have Bailey, and is Dre still here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm trying to like scroll through this list. Yeah, and we had a wonderful topic around the gaps in tribal and state foster care systems, and I believe that's everything that I need to say. And here's our video. Tribal youth, and especially young people in tribal foster care, are at increased risk of becoming homeless because of shortages of tribal housing and the lack of coordination between state and tribal foster care systems.
These cracks in the system show themselves when state agencies such as the Department of Children, Youth and Families and Department of Social and Human Services fail to respond in a timely manner to tribal requests for help. This can include failing to respond appropriately in foster care cases that are covered by the Indian Child Welfare Act. In addition, it's difficult for tribal entities to obtain accurate, up-to-date information about programs and resources available across different state departments. Tribal social workers are consistently not informed of state resources, and the rapid shifting nature of working with foster youth can often make these gaps in knowledge even more troublesome. As a result, tribal youth have difficulty finding housing, and at times it can take months to gain access to housing and other state resources. Homelessness puts tribal youth at greater risk for trafficking, which is the main contributor to the epidemic of murdered missing Indigenous women and peoples. Additionally, LGBTQ Indigenous youth are more than twice as likely to be trafficked than Indigenous women. Ignoring this issue contributes to the systematic oppression and genocide of Indigenous people. These systems must be reformed to prevent the continued oppression and violence against Indigenous women.
We propose the creation of a statewide task force to analyze the systems and policies of coordination between not just DCYF, but all potential state agency interaction with tribal governments regarding foster and homeless youth. This task force would spend 2 years gathering data and testimonies and would develop and present recommendations on how to improve the system to the legislature and Washington's tribes. This task force would be composed of representatives from the Washington State Legislature, Governor's Office, from whichever tribes wish to participate, representatives of the urban Indian community, DCYF, the Office of Homeless Youth, and other relevant state agencies. Estimated funding would be between $200,000 to $300,000 for the biennium. We recognize that while Native youth have informed this solution, we are not a tribal organization. In order for this proposal to be successful, it will need to be endorsed by tribes, and we are actively working to secure those endorsements. We also know that the legislature is often reluctant to authorize and fund task forces. In this case, we think it is the right solution for a few reasons. First, because there is a deep and painful history, it's important that we take the time to understand the problem and listen to Native voices. Secondly, because the tribes are sovereign nations, we need to treat them as such and have a government-to-government solution with the distinction and status of a task force.
A campaign began in the 1800s to try to assimilate American Indian children into non-Native culture. Many Native children were taken from their homes and forced to live in government-run boarding schools, where they were punished for practicing their religion or speaking their own language. From the 1940s through the 1960s, about 1/3 of Native American children were placed in foster homes, the majority of which were non-Indian. These children were often targets of physical and sexual abuse. Today, violence against women and children has become an epidemic. Native women are 3.5 times more likely to be sexually assaulted or raped compared to women of other races. 22% of Native children suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. that is equal to PTSD found in Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. This trauma has contributed to intergenerational trauma that affects Native youth to this day. Native American youth are also overrepresented in our homeless and child welfare systems. While only 2% of the population, Native youth represent 5% of children in Washington's child welfare system and close to 3% of Washington's state homeless students.
Native American youth are one of the most vulnerable demographics in the country. Having close to a third of Native youth living in poverty and almost a quarter of Native youth lacking health care. This crisis is especially highlighted with Native youth experiencing the highest rates of suicide in the nation. Native Americans also have the lowest level of education of any demographic, with high school graduation rates barely reaching 50% and post-secondary attainment rates only reaching 20%. Reliable coordination of foster care systems and ensuring the state picks up the slack where needed will help mitigate these disadvantages.
A task force by itself isn't going to solve all of these issues, but it's an important first step to ensuring that the voices of Native communities that are too often left out or included as an afterthought can help define the problems and identify actionable solutions.
Thank you so much for that video, Everett Chapter. That was so powerful. Especially appreciated the music from our board member, Nuish Demai. Also, would just like to open it up now for questions or comments. Please just type into the chat if you have a question or comment. I'm not seeing that folks have specific questions or comments that they would like to make, but there are a lot of really positive comments coming through for you, Everett. Oh, here we go. Representative Lisa Callan, it looks like you have a question. Please go ahead, Representative Callan.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. And I absolutely agree with you 100%. This is work that needs to happen, and it is a great case for a task force. Having tried to push through task force myself, I understand the difficulties around trying to make that happen, but I think your discussion around government to government is a strong one. One of the actions that did happen recently was the establishment of the Office of Equity, and I was wondering if there had any thoughts or conversations around how to engage the Office of Equity, actually move even quicker and faster, specifically on these issues, and see if there can be some weight and traction coming in from that body as it's starting to make sure that clearly this is an equity issue across our state, and we need to make sure that that's being addressed in just another format to, one, address the problem, but two, also to bring weight to the issue for legislative action.
Am I supposed to respond to that, or Dre?
Charles, I think whichever, yourself or whomever from your, or Dre or whomever from your chapter would like to respond to the question.
Charles, you can go ahead and answer this question.
All right. Yeah, I hadn't actually thought about getting the Office of Equity involved, but if they have capacity, I definitely think that it would be something that we should contact them on, and I will actually put that on my to-do list to start conversations with them. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Let me know how I can help and support.
Thank you, Representative Callan. It looks like Tanya McClanahan of the commission also has a comment. Please go ahead, Tanya.
Thank you, Tanya, she, hers. I just want to say it was very heartwarming and heart-wrenching at the same time. And I would love to hear more about what you thought that task force would look like exactly. And it's all in who you know. And I don't see why it would be such a big task to get this task force going. I don't think you're asking too much. And any way that we can support that, I would love to help push that through as well.
Yeah, with regards to kind of the vision for the task force, I think the key thing is trying to make sure that what we're bringing is something that is able to be malleable to what the tribes need. I don't want to think out down to the smallest detail around the task force until we're able to take the initial idea and get it approved by hopefully the affiliated tribes and Northwest Indians. And once we've done that, then I think we can start having more serious discussions about what exactly that task force looks like and what exactly do all the interested parties want out of the task force.
Thank you. And yes, I can see where that'd be a vital piece. And then just maybe some curiosity of who exactly you would like to have at that table.
From what we are initially proposing, we want to have representatives from pretty much all tribal governments within Washington state, as well as representatives from urban Indians in the state. That's incredibly important because I was homeless and I'm an enrolled member of a tribe from California. And with over 70% of Native Americans being urban Indians, I believe that their voices are also incredibly important. In addition to having the Office of Homeless Youth, DCYF, DSHS, representatives from the legislature and the governor's office, we just want to try to get as many people in the room as possible to try to figure out a series of recommendations on how we can actually move forward and make a system that is working for the youth and that making sure that their rights are protected and that they are getting the services that they need.
Thank you very much. It was a great presentation. And this should be a huge movement. I can see it being a huge movement as it should be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you, Charles, Dre, and the entire Everett chapter. This is such a rich discussion, and clearly there's more comments in the chat box. We're not going to have time to get to all of those. So Lori, please just, if you could type your comment into the box, and then we'll see if we can respond there or get back with you at a later time. Also, Senator Darneal, you had a question about the music, and one of our board members, our board vice president, Noish Damai, is providing the music over that video, and we can get more information on that for you after this. So thank you, Everett. And with that, I know we are a few minutes over time. We are going to go to the Youth Advocates Ending Homelessness chapter of also short break. So I'm so happy to hand it over to Ya. Would someone from the Ya chapter like to introduce the chapter?
Hi, I'm Dakota. I am the chapter leader for Youth Advocates Ending Homelessness. I'm here with our other chapter leader, Casey. Our members Orion, Katie, Megan, and Kylie, as well as our ally from New Horizons, Brian Garrison.
Hi, we're the Yeah chapter from Mockingbird. COVID-19 has made it clear that hygiene resources for people experiencing homelessness in Washington state are lacking. We have seen the state quickly attempt to move unsheltered folks into housing, in a move that reflects the idea that homelessness is indeed a public health issue. As a chapter, we have seen this problem come forward in many ways. One particular problem we have seen is the inability for folks experiencing homelessness to access hygiene services or supplies while recovering from injury or illness. When young people experiencing homelessness are discharged from hospitals and clinics, this issue becomes even more urgent. Recovering from stitches or wound care is so much more difficult when you can't afford clean bandages or when you don't have access to clean running water. Similarly, folks who have been recently ill may not improve well without a place to regularly shower. They can't wash their clothes or take medication in a hygienic way. These issues are not regularly considered by health providers when creating discharge plans.
In order to make hygiene resources more readily available to the homeless folks on the mend, we would like to see the Healthcare Authority require that managed healthcare organizations start 2 specific actions. We want care facilities like hospitals and clinics to screen for homelessness at patient intake and then use that information to inform their discharge orders for that client. This could include a take-home hygiene kit with bandages, soap, clean water, and more. While the possibilities for attending to homelessness in care really are endless, at the very minimum, we want to see health providers providing free care kits to any person experiencing any form of homelessness.
We know that coordinated care, the managed healthcare organization that ensures foster youth in Washington, already screens for homelessness. Additionally, their clients can get wound care kits with a prescription. We think of this as a good starting point. We would like to see all 5 of the managed care organizations in Washington screening for homelessness. And we would like all folks experiencing homelessness of any kind to be eligible for free wound care kit and free sanitation kits without a prescription. Removing the prescription requirements would remove barriers and create equity in hygiene access. As stably housed youth do not normally have to go to such length to get access to hygiene items.
According to a recent United Healthcare report, under-household folks use hospitals at a higher rate for longer periods of time than their house counterparts. These new procedure measures will help ensure that folks experiencing homelessness do not need to come back for care due to re-injury, infection. In turn, this also means that measured care organizations will have to pay less to cover these reoccurrences incidents. The financial investment into these, like bandages and soap, is more likely less than the individual organizations that have to make with someone who has to seek care again for the same issue.
The current public health crisis has made it clear that if we want to protect our unhoused neighbors, we need to be proactive about how we tend to their hygiene and health needs. While our chapter members are not experts in navigating healthcare and insurance, we are experts in youth homelessness. We can tell you that by requiring that hospitals and clinics actively screen for and attend to homelessness as a health issue, we can help to give unhoused folks a chance to heal and focus on acquiring housing and financial stability instead.
Thank you. Yeah, chapter. Amazing turnout. Also, all of you who are here. And I just want to comment on the video. One time I was in a meeting with a legislator and she said, yeah, always comes up with the most common sense solutions. And I think this is a really wonderful example of that. So I see that there are a lot of really positive comments. There's a lot of love coming through for you, members. Oh, here we go. Lori Lippold has a comment. Please do go ahead, Lori.
Thank you, Lori, she, her, hers. Thank you. This was great. It's so clear. And one of those things that's just like oh my gosh, this should just be a duh. Well, yes, this makes so much sense. I wanted to just raise another coalition group that's out there that maybe we could figure out how to get this issue in front of them as well. And that's the Health Coalition for Children and Youth. This seems like an entity that would welcome this kind of recommendation. And I just think building those alliances and partnerships with others, I saw some of the chats about getting the Healthcare Authority on board, and glad to hear the good work that Coordinated Care is doing, and totally agree that all insurers should be doing this. So thank you for highlighting it.
Thanks, Lori. Oh, and also wanted to say that the YouTube chat is also getting a lot of love for coming through there. So those are comments that you all can't see here, but the live stream YouTube is on fire with that. So it looks like at this point there are no more comments or questions for the chapter other than just the all of the props and the love that's coming through. So members, is there anything else that you would like to say before I hand it back over to Esther? Oh, I'm sorry, Casey. Casey Troupin on the Office of Homeless Youth Advisory Board. One comment. Yes, please go ahead, Casey.
Thank you. And let's see if I'm not disrupted by my children. So Casey Troupin, he, him, Rakes Foundation. And Becca already answered my question, my comment about connecting with the Healthcare Authority. But I just wanted to kind of underscore that I think Washington State is the first state to have a dedicated policy person in healthcare focused on the connection between behavioral health and hospitalization and youth homelessness. And I'm excited to see that, it's connected with them. Obviously what you presented wasn't just about behavioral health, but given that all things are connected, I'm really excited about that and wondering if SAWSY has offered to help steer this through the Healthcare Authority.
Well, I'm Kylie. I'm part of the chapter, and by doing this process of saving money, by giving out health, you can save a lot of money. I've talked to a lot of people I know who says this will be a fantastic idea to pitch and get through. I do think it might require a small legislation piece on legal side to help make it so healthcare have to do this, but it's just how do we do that? I have no idea. So if anyone out there has any ideas, please reach out to us because we would love to find out how to pull this off and save money at the same time and drop down costs and maybe have more money to do other things. So let's make this happen.
To piggyback off of what you were saying, Kylie, the cost we think for just providing one of those wound kits is going to cost a lot less than what it would cost for them to have to retreat the infection, the injury, basically whatever's going wrong. So we honestly believe that it's going to cost them a lot less money to give a wound kit versus having to spend a lot more money on bringing the person back into the hospital and to refix it, if that makes any sense to you guys. That's all I have.
Katie, thank you. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I was actually gonna go because
Go ahead, Megan.
this is actually my area of expertise in the medical field, and even with medical billing and coding, about how much it's gonna cost, and how much funding it's gonna need. I know our chapter has talked before that that the Apple Health insurance plan cover aftercare. So I know we're talking about getting it with Apple Health to be able to cover these hygiene kits without a prescription, so that there wouldn't really need to be too much funding, maybe just funding for people who their immigration status does not allow for them to be able to get health insurance in the state of Washington.
Thank you, Megan, for just clarifying on that point about the financial piece. That was really good to keep in mind. I am going to wrap up the portion of Q&A now because we need to move on to our break. I want to again thank the chapter for raising this important topic, and then thank you all for the questions and comments. If you had questions and comments on any of the presentations that we didn't get to, please just type them out in the chat so that we can respond at a later time. And we are a little bit over time, but I think that's so important to make sure that we we're able to watch the videos and get questions for every chapter. So I just thank you all for hanging in. And over to you, Esther.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you to the Yeah chapter for your awesome presentation, and as well as the other chapters that have presented. So let's give everyone a round of applause, jazz hands, snaps. You guys are all doing so terrific, and I'm so glad to be a part of this with each and every one of you. And thank you once again for really working hard to make sure your voices are heard, your voices are known. Beautiful presentations, beautiful speeches, and your thoughts come out clearly and you articulate everything very well. So thank you. And now it's time for our 5-minute break. Since the break is 5 minutes, we will have on the screen a 5-minute countdown timer. And every time a number disappears, the remaining numbers are the time you have left. You will also see an optional reflection question on the screen, and feel free to share your thoughts in the Zoom chat or in the YouTube live chat. So stretch, stand up, drink a glass of water, do anything that would take your mind off of the event, and come back more refreshed. And once again, thanks for tuning in. Thank you guys for your patience. Welcome back, everyone. Now we are going to move on to the video presentations. My name, once again, is Esther Taylor. And for this portion, you'll again have the opportunity to hear presentations with 5 minutes for questions following each presentation. Please type "I have a question" and or comment in the chat box. We will call on you. And now we'll hear from the network representative team.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to see everyone here. The network representative team will be doing something a little differently than the other groups. We'll be giving our speech live. And before we get started, I would like to give the opportunity for my colleagues and I to introduce ourselves. So without further ado, my name is Brianna Franco. I use she, her pronouns.
My name is Avery Tuttle, and I use she, her pronouns.
Ezra, are you there? Wesley, would you like to go ahead?
Sure, thank you, Brianna. My name is Wesley, and my pronouns are he or they.
Hi, my name's Alyssa Downing, and I use they, them pronouns.
Great. So the network representative team is asking to reduce the interactions that young people have with police by minimizing or eliminating their presence in schools, youth shelters, and child welfare settings. In juvenile justice settings, we ask to minimize contact by prioritizing community de-escalation trainings and restorative justice practices. We imagine a community-based response to 911 crisis calls for schools, shelters, and child welfare settings that doesn't include police presence. While state agencies don't fund police directly, built-in contact with police in all of these settings indirectly funds the police and contributes to the disproportionalities we see in foster care, homelessness, and juvenile justice.
In 2019, Mockingbird Society successfully led a coalition that ended detention for status offenses. We are building on that success this year. Mockingbird has already joined 2 coalition of agencies to call on Mayor Durkin, Chief Best, and the City Council to defund the Seattle Police Department by 50%, release protesters, and support community-based solutions. We're asking our partners at the Office of Homeless Youth, the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, and the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction to also commit to doing everything in their power to reduce young people's contact with both the police and juvenile justice systems. We ask you to invest in prevention, diversion, and trauma-informed services to give young people and their families the supports they need to equitably thrive.
Young adults ages 20 to 35 years old have the most interactions with police out of any age group. 28% of young people aging out of foster care will experience homelessness within 1 year, and 25% will be incarcerated within 2 years, which means police brutality hits our young people hard. Our Black and Indigenous communities face disproportionate negative outcomes in high school education, foster care, juvenile justice, and homelessness. Police presence is built into many of these settings. Police institutions were historically made to protect the wealth and the well-being of white people. This is still their function at the expense of the health and wealth of Black, Brown, and Indigenous families and communities. The network rep team is paying attention to how young people have been traumatized by police and people in authority abusing their power. We demand that our state and community defund and demilitarize the police to invest in community-based supports and services.
We are paying particular attention and investigating the places where our young people interface the most with police and the criminal legal system. That is, during removals from home, mental health crises, domestic disturbances, JRA, homelessness, and in schools. We are calling for investment in innovative and community-based solutions. Here are two regional examples. Locally, we have seen Seattle's University District Service Providers Alliance organize de-escalation trainings after its members committed to not calling the police for shelter disagreements. Eugene, Oregon has 31 years of successful 911 diversion with CAHOOTS. That stands for Crisis Assistance Helping Out on the Streets. CAHOOTS is a mental health response nonprofit. Each team of responders consists of a medic and a mental health crisis worker. In 2019, 24,000 calls were directed to CAHOOTS, and only 150 of those calls required police backup. Each year, the city saves an estimate $8.5 million in police costs and an additional $14 million in ambulance and emergency room costs, all while reducing the amount of violence, misconduct, and brutality.
We are calling to remove and reduce police presence and funding because we openly recognize that previous police reform has not been effective and police are seldom held accountable for wrongdoing. We must take a different approach to ensure a more responsible and equitable change is effectively taking place. We ask our partners on the Commission at DCYF, OHY, and OSPI to commit to doing this work with us. Help us identify the many ways we can move funding away from police and eliminate punitive responses. Help us prioritize and invest in restorative justice, community-based solutions, and innovative crisis response. Help us end the trauma that our young people experience at the hands of police. Do we have your commitment?
Thank you, Alyssa, and all of the network reps for raising that topic. In the chat, people are responding really well to this, especially saying that the examples of alternatives have been really helpful. That came in from Kim Justice. A lot of people just saying what an excellent presentation this was. I'm not seeing any specific folks who want to comment. Oh, Lori Lippold. Yes. Yes, Lori, please go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I talk way too much. I'll kick me off the commission probably. But thank you. I just think that this is so relevant and timely, and your research and examples are fantastic. I'm curious, my question is, are you aware of other states where they do not involve police in the child removal part? So CPS pairing up?
Hi, Lori. This is Brianna. Excellent question. I will say that we, as far as I'm aware, don't have that information. We've been just looking at what's going on within Washington State, but that would be very helpful information to have.
Great, thank you. I have heard that not all states do it the way we do here. So yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to hear what you find out.
Thanks, Lori. We also have a question from Mike Canfield. Mike is a member of the Commission on Foster Care. Please go ahead, Mike.
Sure. My comment is that, can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
I can hear you, yeah.
In a discussion I had recently about defunding the police, an idea came up that the police officer should spend 2 days out of uniform working in the community at one of the places where they are needed as volunteers, and as a way that would kill two birds with one stone. One, it would increase their awareness of the community and the needs in the community, and at the same time help them grow socially. So I just want to make that comment.
Thank you, Mike, for bringing that up. Jill Mallett, I believe, is next. Jill is on the Commission on Foster Care. Please go ahead, Jill. Jill,
sorry,
oh,
I was
okay.
on.
I get it. I get it. Okay, yeah, go ahead, please.
So my question is, since, and going back to Lori's issue about police being involved in removals, since I think about 80% of the cases involve neglect, have you looked into the issue of police not being involved in removals if there's no allegations of abuse in the case?
Hi again, Jill. I know we've had conversations about this recently, and I will say from that time frame we've had that conversation to now, very limited research on that specifically. So as we're unraveling this a bit more and hashing out more the specificities, you know what I'm trying to say.
I do.
We're hoping to incorporate some of that information into our ask as well.
I would also like to say that in conversations that I've seen about defunding the police, abuses like domestic abuse is usually brought up as an example of using, instead of having police respond to those, having people who are like specifically trained in handling domestic abuse situations. And, you know, I think that those people could be, you know, used in those situations instead of police.
So, hi, everyone. My name is Fernando Clara, and I'd like to, so I'm Director of Practice Innovation at the Mockingbird Society. And in a previous life, I had the opportunity to work with actually a number of states. And so I had the opportunity to work and see both counties and states that both do removals with police and without police. In some states like Florida and some counties like Florida, specific counties, it's all police that do the removal rates. Would love to say that there's a strong difference between those two systems or the way this works, but unfortunately there's not. And I think the network team really hit it, the nail on the head, as they say. I think particularly Ezra mentioned the fact that the systems are made really to police folks. And so regardless, at least, you know, what the information would say is that whether police or whether it's social workers or mental health workers that are providing the services, they weren't made for folks of color, which are the ones that are affected the majority of time. And so as we're thinking of, I think, both defunding the police, it also takes, you know, new approaches, both, I think, within the system that we have, because there are margins where we could work, but there also needs to, you know, the way the network team mentioned it is a complete revamp, a complete rethinking of how we even approach child welfare. When you mention neglect, I've had, you know, reading different policies from all over states, and no one has a specific answer. It's really all left to the person's perspective. And what is that perspective, or where is that lens coming through oftentimes, right? It's not from folks of color or people from the community that are working there. And so again, we go back to that police state.
Thank you, Fernando, for bringing that up and just sharing on your experience and how that can support what the network reps are doing in a really innovative way. We have several other people who want to make comments or questions, but we're not going to have time. So please just type in your question or comment into the chat so that we can follow up with you. Also, network reps, just so you know, a lot of love continues to come through the YouTube live stream for you, and they're especially impressed with the research that you all have done and the statistics, particularly on the Cahoots example. So folks in the YouTube world are impressed with you all as well, even though you're not able to see their comments. Thank you so much. At this point, I am going to hand it over to the Seattle chapter to introduce themselves. Would someone from the Seattle chapter like to unmute? Yeah, just remember you may be on mute if you're trying to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Lauren. Sorry about that. Hi, my name is James. I'm from the Seattle chapter. I'm here with other Seattle chapters members, Olivia, Chandler, and Miranda. Please enjoy our video.
Young people who are experiencing homelessness require steady support and find stable housing and financial stability. This is incredibly difficult when a young person is cycled through multiple case managers due to staff leaving their position. This is influenced partially by how much paperwork and the case manager must complete. When case managers feel like their position has too much paperwork, or that the paperwork feels like it interrupts their more essential tasks, they can get discouraged. These case managers are dedicated, committed individuals who are overworked and undersupported. As a result, many caseworkers experience burnouts and ultimately leave their positions. This negatively affects homeless youth, as they have to start building a new relationship and trust with a new worker. It is very clear that young people in vulnerable situations struggle to thrive when dealing with case manager turnover.
The Seattle chapter specifically chose this topic because we have a lot of young people who have been negatively impacted by having case manager turnover. We have folks who were experiencing homelessness who had to stay longer on the streets because they couldn't get the support they needed from their case managers. We have one chapter member who, over the course of 2.5 years, had between 8 and 9 case managers. He said that this made it really hard to feel motivated to find permanent, stable housing. He said that a lot of the times, folks just said that they were too busy or they didn't have enough time for him because their caseloads were too large and they had too many tasks on their plate. Also, as an engagement coordinator, I'm very personally interested in this topic because I was in foster care and I had a wonderful, strong case management team, and I ended up with stable housing pretty quickly, whereas my siblings who had a lot of turnover in their case management teams ended up staying in the system for anywhere from 2 to 4 times as long as I did.
To reduce case manager turnover in homelessness service programs, we suggest implementing a way to reduce unnecessary and redundant paperwork. We ask that Office of Homeless Youth consider implementing a task force to identify and remove these barriers for OHY grantee shelters and case managers. This model has been implemented by the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, and we would like to see it implemented with OHY as well. In the DCYF system, a task force made up of individuals in various positions across the state gather quarterly to specifically address work reduction. These task force members identify problems, discuss solutions, and actively work towards implementing changes as soon as possible. This started specifically as a workload reduction work group and transitioned to a broader field advisory board due to its effectiveness.
We believe a system like this will help separate clerical work from direct social work and will reduce case manager turnover. If we reduce this turnover, there is the benefit for the service provider in that they spend less time and money on hiring and training new case managers. We believe that this additional time will mean additional support, especially for marginalized communities. This will help connect LGBTQ plus youth, youth of color, and other vulnerable youth to services quicker, as case managers can spend more time looking for queer and trans-friendly resources, safe spaces, and medical assistance, instead of filing extensive paperwork to avoid liabilities.
While we recognize that the amount of paperwork is necessary to protect young people and their services, we believe that the work reduction of this paperwork will result in higher job satisfaction and lower turnover. We ask that OHY learn from the work DCYF is doing, and perhaps even go as far as to improve upon it. Additionally, we hope that case managers from across the state will have meaningful input as to how this can be implemented. As our founder, Jim Theophilus, often says, we need to take good care of the people who are taking good care of our youth. One way of doing this is by critically reviewing the work we ask case managers to do and trusting their wisdom when it comes to reducing that load.
Thank you, Seattle chapter. Another really practical solution. And I love seeing your video. It's the first time I've seen all the videos, so thank you for that. I will say there's a lot of really positive comments coming in through the chat, and it looks like the first person is Kim Justice, who has a couple of questions. So Kim, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome job, Seattle chapter. And yeah, like ditto, Lauren, what you said, just kind of like simple, simple solutions. I love that you all are thinking about what the work looks like for caseworkers and just how to minimize that. I think that this is definitely something we would be happy to work on. And I guess a couple questions I was having as you all were presenting were, I was thinking about, knowing that a lot of our providers are funded from multiple sources. And I know this is a strain, right? Because there's different funding cycles, whether it's state funding, federal funding, private funding, county funding, and a lot of different accountability measures attached with that. So I don't know, and I'm curious, how the requirements, paperwork requirements, vary by funder, and if we, take some time to look into this, we might want to engage some of those other like federal programs and county governments, so that whatever we're doing, we can try to be consistent, so that folks are doing kind of one thing that works for all the the programs and the funders. So yeah, that's sort of, I guess, more of a comment than a question. And then I was kind of curious about just, the turnover with caseworkers. I've heard varying kind of ideas about what would be ideal in terms of working with a caseworker, whether it's that, one consistent person over time, or I've heard, that sometimes young people have found benefit from having like a team approach of caseworking where you've got, maybe 2 or 3 different folks who are closely connected. So if something does happen with turnover or just someone's not available that day, that there are other, other caseworkers that are, tapped in and can help without having to kind of start from square one all over again. So just curious if you have any thoughts on that. But thank you again. Awesome presentation.
For the question about like the team approach, or would they rather have like a single person walking on it? Usually it would, like the team approach, that's not usually like an effective way of doing it, because then that could take away from one of the people who are working together. It would take away from the other possible cases that they could have. But if you have one person on that case, and then that foster kid / homeless kid sticks with that one person, they get to know them, the caseworker isn't what is it called, overworked or anything, they don't end up leaving, and they're with them for that very long time, the relationship between those two will be a lot stronger than the relationship between the foster kid and like multiple caseworkers. So having the team approach isn't as effective as having just one caseworker that stays the whole time.
Great, thanks, Chandler.
No problem.
And it looks like on the YouTube live stream, Senator Reuven Carlisle from the Seattle area was giving a shout out to you all, Seattle chapter, and was wanting to connect more on that issue. And thank you for raising it. Representative Tina Orwell has from South King County was saying that this was really great feedback. And then we also have a foster parent who has said that they have personally watched the children in foster care in their home be impacted by this issue. So I want to thank you again for raising it. I Oh, Chandler, yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. If I did, I apologize. I see that you have one more thing to say. Please go ahead.
It's all right. You didn't cut me off, but what I was going to say was, I was speaking from personal experience with the single person connection between those two, but for specific individuals, it could be different depending on the child, their needs, what they need. Like they could need someone who will be there all the time. So they could need two or more, but usually it's just one.
Thank you, Chandler. That's good to know. So I'm just wanting to pause for a time check. I know that we are over time, but we do have still to hear from the Tacoma chapter and then a joint presentation from the Olympia and Spokane chapters. So even though we were hoping to wrap up around 3:10 p.m., we are going to be running over, and I'm hoping that folks will be able to stay and be able to watch those presentations and continue to participate with us. And I thank you for bearing with us. I know it's really hot and just, there's a lot going on, but we appreciate that you're here and want to make sure you continue to hear from the young people. And so if folks could limit their comment or question to one for the remaining two presentations, just for time purposes, that would be really helpful. And I'll just call on the first person who pops up in the chat. Thank you so much. And with that, I am really happy to hand it over to the Tacoma chapter.
Hello, my name is Jolie Riza. I am a Tacoma chapter leader at Mockingbird Society. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am here with Tacoma chapter members, Alexandra, Nathan, Emily, Angel, Isabel, and Liv. Here is our video. So I hope you enjoy.
We know way too many youth that had to wait 10 plus years with 40 plus reports to get into foster care, while we also see youth who are removed from their parents for non-issues. Youth who have difficulty entering foster care have parents who have a strong standing in the community, are well educated, make good money, and have good jobs. They are given more of a chance to keep their kids. Low-income families, families of color, or families that live in poor neighborhoods, on the other hand, are more likely to see their children be removed for minor or trivial things, such as an accident at home. Some of you may have heard about the Gabriel Fernandez case from California. In 2012, he was placed in his mother's care, and in 2013 died due to abuse he suffered at her hands. Despite 60 CPS reports and 8 investigations, this is a tragedy, but unfortunately what happened to Gabriel happens all over the U.S. Nearly 2,000 kids who are already involved with CPS died from child abuse, neglect in 2017. However, at the same time, too many families are torn apart due to systematic bias and discrimination. The DCYF strategic plan sets a goal to safely reduce the number of youth in care by half. We support reducing needless entries into care, but are very concerned that this goal will make it even harder for youth who do need foster care to get the services and support they need.
Many of our chapter members were failed by CPS. Some have suffered through years of served abuse before being removed from their abuse homes. On the other hand, we have also seen the disproportionate rates of Black youth coming into care for non-issues.
The goal of the child welfare system is to keep kids safe, and we want the same thing. We feel that equitable protection of children's safety and well-being can improve through youth and engagement and expertise, as well as a new risk assessment questions. Our solution involves 3 parts. We are calling on the Department of Children, Youth, and Families to 1. Have a board led by folks who experience CPS and foster care to decide what happens with reports and determine whether or not it is appropriate for a youth to come into care. DCYF is piloting a board in Region 5 to review removal decisions, and that is showing early reductions in removals. We think this is a good idea and want to expand it by including youth and families who have been through CPS as board members. This should include youth and families who had negative and positive experiences with CPS. We also think that the board should not be provided with information about race or ethnicity of the children or parents involved in the case to reduce possible inherent bias. Establishing this board would likely require legislative action.
The second part of our plan is to use adverse childhood experiences and resilience factors when investigating cases and making decisions on whether or not to remove a child or referring them to services. In addition to asking the CPS investigator to assess adverse childhood experiences and resilience factors, we would also like the youth to do a self-assessment, as well as their parents, of the adverse childhood experience factors and resilience factors. That provides a more complete picture of the situation at home and the multiple perspectives. This could be accomplished through administrative action. The third part of our plan is to provide ongoing training to social workers, focusing on understanding the culture of the young people they serve and addressing implicit bias and myths that appear when dealing with young people of different ages and experiences while being raised by the state. This could also be accomplished through administrative action. All of these combined will create an equity toolkit that lays a more transparent and equity-focused framework to accomplish the goal of reducing entry into care without compromising youth safety. We don't know how much it would cost to implement this solution, but we know that DCYF and our communities pay a huge cost when youth are inappropriately removed from their homes or left with an abusive environment. If DCYF can truly and safely reduce the number of children in care, there will be cost savings.
The pandemic has created a lot of concern with CPS reports being down 50% or more, on top of social workers being unable to make home visits. We are concerned as well about lack of funding. However, COVID is an opportunity to make positive changes to how CPS operates. Since CPS was not working for everyone, especially Black and Indigenous families, it may take a longer time to implement these solutions because of the pandemic, but it shouldn't stop the conversation about moving forward and putting plans in place.
From the data sent by the state, it showed that disproportionate removal rate of youth of color. Out of 5,539 children, less than 49% of removals were white. The Pilot Advisory Board in Region 5 has already decreased the amount of removals happening. Other examples are showing that similar boards who addressed disproportionality but had no lasting impact in the long term. We believe having an equity advisory board included as a 3-part solution will have a better result on addressing disproportionality.
Thank you, Tacoma Chapter. I see that in the chat and in the comments, folks are appreciative of the data, that you're tackling the whole issue. And Lori Lippold says that she'd love to talk with you more about your recommendations later on, Lori from the commission. Does anybody, yeah, thanks, Brianna. Sorry, go ahead.
That was it. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone from the Office of Homeless Youth Advisory Committee or the Commission have a comment or question? I'm not seeing any in the chat. All I'm seeing is just a ton of really great just feedback on all your ideas. Oh, I see Tasha West Baker, our board president. Yes, thank you, Tasha. Please go ahead.
Sorry, my camera's not on, but I guess my question is around
implicit bias training for social workers, not just with the kids, but also with the families. I've just really seen where there are CPS cases reported on Black and Brown families, and the kids are removed from the home more so because of the parents, because these could be infants. And so I think that that really speaks to an implicit bias on the part of the social workers, as opposed, for the family as a whole, right? And so I'm wondering if you guys' presentation has plans or approaches to approach those implicit bias as it comes out in the social workers against the families.
I'd love to talk on that a bit. So part of the goal of having a board with youth who've experienced care is for them to serve as almost like a helpful perspective to continuously educate people about equity and to see all these different perspectives. And in order for like a kid to get removed, the idea is that they would have to go through the board and have a discussion with the social workers of the case and their supervisors about what's going on with the case and seeing if it's actually something that is worthy of a kid being removed from their entire family, and not just a non-issue, as we were sort of saying. There was one, just really quickly, there was one case that we came across of a Black child being removed from the home because of one hairdryer burn. And, there are other cases that we see specifically with white teens who've gone through 10 years of abuse or more and then are just finally getting removed at like 16. So there's an obvious disproportionality problem with the removal process. And I think part of youth being involved the goal is to help with that.
Thanks, Emily, for that response and just clarifying. And Tasha, thank you for your question. I'm sorry that we don't have more time, Tacoma, to spend on questions, but just wanting you to know that there is a lot of love coming through on the YouTube live stream. There's still around, I think, 130 people on there. And also Senator Darnell from Tacoma, whom you all may know, is wanting to meet with you to speak with you further on this topic. So thank you so much. And at this point, I am going to hand it off to the final presentation, which is the joint presentation from Olympia and Spokane. And so I'll hand it over to them for introductions.
My name is Luke Grayson. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm with the Spokane chapter. Alongside Tyrell, who uses he, him pronouns, Joseph, who uses he, him pronouns, and Caitlin Wallace, who uses she, her pronouns.
The Department of Children, Youth and Families and other partners do not adequately support children and youth in foster care to maintain strong family connections while in foster care. The Olympia chapter found that parent-child visitation is insufficient for maintaining and strengthening the family relationship. This has been made more complicated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has shifted in-person visitation to mostly virtual visitation. However, even when in-person visitation is possible, 1 2-hour visit per week isn't enough time to maintain a meaningful relationship. Additionally, our chapter members experience a lot of barriers to successfully completing that bare minimum of 1 weekly visit, including lack of support for families with disabilities, uncomfortable visitation environments, for example, an office building instead of a home-like environment, missed visits because of social worker workload, transportation issues, etc.
While parent-child visitation needs work, the Spokane chapter has found that sibling visitation does not receive the same amount of focus and support that parental visitation receives for those in foster care. And with that lack of support, there is a lack of understanding and awareness that siblings face when the sibling is outside of foster care. For some foster care children, their siblings could have either been deported, incarcerated in another state, or been placed in tribal foster care. These obstacles can cause serious disruptions within a child's life. Without sibling support, children in foster care are more likely to exhibit problematic behaviors, score higher on the child behavior checklist, and feel a sense of loss and abandonment. No child should ever have to feel like this and deserve to have the additional support in visiting their siblings.
Restricting the ability to connect with one sibling or relative while incarcerated or in foster care can cause feelings of isolation, dumbfound, lackluster, confusion, or even being scared amidst the spider web of communities. Amongst the many physical barriers, state lines and serving a sentence are amongst the most likely to impact a child's developmental progression in terms of education and social interactions. These problematic behaviors are unfortunate in their circumstance. Through my own experiences, I have been one of these most directly affected by one or more of these factors. These lack of interactions because of barriers have often made me feel like I've been abandoned and or forgotten. Brief and short visits came sporadically and often unexpected, only to leave me feeling left alone for months and years. As I grow older, the longing to seek these familiar presence become essential through morale and purpose, but reestablishing these relationships for lack of distance or uncircumstance were and still become difficult.
May of 2007 was my first experience being put in the foster care system. I was 8 going on 9 years old at the time, alongside my brother and sister, whose ages were 12 and 10. As the 3 of us were placed in foster care, my sister and I were kept together, while our brother lived in a separate home. The 3 of us would unite usually once a week to have visitation meetings with our mother. The family visitation meetings were usually 1 hour to 2 hours once a week, which was not enough time for me to see my mother. On top of that, our visits were monitored by various people who worked in the foster care system, which made the visits feel more invasive and less personal. Never should a child or parent feel like it is a crime to see each other, ever. It is baffling and very saddening to me that the foster care system did my family and I dirty when it came to how they set the parameters of our visitation meetings. For starters, the fact that the system allowed my siblings and I to see our mother once a week was reinforced trauma, memories that are haunting and sad, and time we can never get back. The foster care system makes decisions based off of logic, which is very illogical when it comes to the emotional turmoil and lasting trauma that is enforced and takes place when children are placed in foster care.
The Spokane and Olympia chapters proposed 3 main administrative changes that would greatly improve and enhance family connections for youth in foster care. The first administrative change we are asking is to simplify and centralize the process of sibling visitation for youth in care with siblings in other state systems of care. We ask that caseworkers are given additional training for understanding the process between connecting foster youth with their sibling counterparts who are imposed through both public and private prisons, as well as additional training for understanding the process between a foster youth and their siblings that are under Immigration Customs Enforcement custody or that have been deported across the U.S. lines. We also propose a centralized location of information for all questions regarding the process of sibling visitation when it pertains to visiting across state lines, for example, Washington State and Idaho, the relationship between state and tribal rules and procedures.
Improve and enhance parent-child visitation by continued use of virtual phone visitation to supplement in-person visitation when in-person visitation starts up again. To do this, the administration should provide more support to social workers by following the lead of DCYF Region 3 to contract with an organization who can properly facilitate family visitation, and expanding the number of family visitation centers to create a more nurturing environment for visitation.
Our third administrative change was to collect and disaggregate data on visitation. We could not find any data on sibling visitation and how often it occurred. While there is data on parent-child visitation, we recommend also tracking and reporting visitation data by race, ethnicity, and disability status and age. This would help answer several equity-related issues such as what percentage of family visits for youth of color are happening compared to their white peers in care? Do youth or parents with disabilities have a harder time making visits work because of unmet accessibility needs? What percentage of adolescents are having visits?
COVID-19 has impacted the lives of foster youth, biological parents, foster parents, and social workers. Family visitation has been negatively impacted due to safety precautions, pushing visitation to a completely digital platform. Visitation is not being rescheduled if complications arise due to lack of social worker availability and capability. And we want to push the department to continue to help youth and bio parents to stay in touch via online contact and to help youth maintain connections to siblings.
We also understand that with the ongoing issue of COVID-19, that administrative changes and implementations will be difficult. However, we insist that the support for siblings and parent visitation be implemented as a top priority, as the longer the families remain separated, then the psychological state of the child in foster care will continue to get worse.
We acknowledge there have been many recent developments, including the Family Connections program, which helps to build the relationship between caregivers and biofamily, and the use of contracted visitation supervisors to help ensure visitation is happening. Family connection, whether with parents or with siblings, are incredibly important to long-term outcomes that we need to continue to build on those successes and add to them. COVID has exposed how hard it is to maintain connection when we are physically distant. But that is the reality for foster children and their families every day, whether during COVID or not. We need to do better, and our proposals provide 3 simple improvements to move towards a more connected future.
Thank you so much, Olympia and Spokane chapters. I want to pause and give an opportunity for the Olympia chapter to go ahead and introduce themselves, since they didn't have a chance to do that before the video started. Rin, would you or someone from the Olympia chapter like to start, or you may be on mute as well?
I can go.
Great, thank you.
My name's Victoria. I'm one of the chapter leaders for the Olympia chapter, and the other chapter members are Rin, Esther, and Mike.
Thank you, Victoria. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to do that before the video began, so appreciate you taking that opportunity now. We still have 90 people hanging in there on the YouTube chat, and they also are sending a lot of really positive comments. A lot of positive comments coming through the chat. Does anyone have a specific comment or question that they would like to pose to the Olympia and Spokane chapters?
I'm sorry, Lauren, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm just asking if anyone has a specific comment or question for the Olympia and Spokane chapters. I'm seeing a lot of really positive comments, but nothing specific. Oh, I see.
Lauren,
oh, go ahead, Annie. Yes.
Oh, no, I was just going to say Emily brought up Camp To Belong, which is an amazing, amazing program which brings siblings together over the summer for a camp experience. And you know, as I was telling this chapter, Olympia and Spokane, first time we've had chapters joined together, woot woot. And you know, for me personally, it is such an important topic. I didn't see my brother for almost 8 years, and now I am his permanency in his adult life. And it took a long time to get to a place where he'd allow me to care for him. Because I was just his sister. You're not my mom. You're not the boss of me. Luke knows what I'm talking about. I see you, Luke. Thank you all so much for bringing this up. You carry forward the mission from my heart. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Annie. It looks like we have one comment from Mike Canfield with the commission before we move on. Please go ahead, Mike.
Yes, I just want to add that this topic is so huge, and the state, and there is a work group going on, and we have been meeting weekly, especially during the COVID crisis, to try to improve visitation and improve the foster parents' ability to cooperate with visitation. And there are some great ideas coming out as we speak to make this a better situation for everybody. So hang in there. We're going to fix this. That's my comment.
Thank you, Mike. So knowing that we have a few more things before we wrap up, I would just like to see Olympia or Spokane. Do you have any last comments that you would like to make before I hand it over to Esther? Okay.
Looks like Rin is putting in the chat. She wants to know if there are any youth in the group. I know she said she was having technical difficulties, so maybe.
Oh, okay. So Mike, perhaps you can respond to Rin's question in the chat. And I will, I'm in the interest, thank you, Brianna, for flagging that. And I will, in the interest of time, hand it over to Esther.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you to each of our chapters and the network representatives for speaking truth today and for the many hours of work leading up to today. I will now turn it over to Avery for reflection on the presentations, awards, and closing. And once again, thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Esther. I invite you all to unmute yourselves for a moment and snap for this year's summit proposals. When I put my hands together, please mute yourselves again.
And in my opinion, now family association.
Very exciting stuff. Okay. For those of you joining by phone, my hands are going together. Thank you for participating. My name is Avery Tuttle, and I'm a network representative for the Mockingbird Society. I'm passionate about direct service and transforming the child welfare system so it'll take better care of my younger peers. Thank you to all of our chapters who have worked so hard to hone in excellent proposals this year, and props to our video team who made it all work virtually. Now I would like to invite the co-chairs of the Washington State Supreme Court Commission on Foster Care to make closing comments about what we just heard.
All right, hello everybody. I'm just blown away. I'm almost speechless in terms of what to say. Every year I've participated in these summits. I go in with one way of thinking and come out just purely amazed. The word I'm thinking of as others kind of started the summit, the word I'm thinking of is hope, and how much hope I have in my heart and in my head as I think about all of the networks and chapters that have come together, the Commission on Children and Youth in Foster Care, and our Office of Homeless Youth. I think we are three powerful entities that can really come forward and support all of the networks and chapters in their ideas that we heard today. I know from the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, we stand committed to working side by side with you on those issues that are near and dear to our heart, where we have direct capacity to influence, and look forward to just ongoing communications as we move forward. A huge shout out to Mockingbird Society. The videos that each of the chapters put together were so just well organized, very thoughtful. Appreciated all of the data, the personal stories that were interjected into each of the topic areas, just helped to really bring all of it to life. So my hands are raised to all of you. And as I mentioned, just really look forward to connecting after this summit and figuring out what our pathway forward is working together. So thank you for your time today and the many hours that went into your presentations and our work that we'll do together.
Thank you, Jody, for those comments. I now welcome a representative from the Office of Homeless Youth Prevention and Protection Programs Advisory Committee to make their comments now.
So thank you so much for that. It has been an incredible honor just to witness the thoughtfulness and the hard work that was put into each of the advocacy proposals. I guess if I had to choose a word that stands out to me, it would be accountability. And I encourage you to continue to hold accountable agencies, organizations, and institutions with influence or decision-making power to be more person-centered and responsive to the needs of young people. It's not enough for us to talk about valuing equity or valuing youth voice. It's time to demand exactly how decision makers and those responsible for program implementation within systems plan to specifically address the concerns of young people who are furthest from justice, and that they include young people and other impacted communities in every aspect of those decisions as true collaborators. On behalf of the Office of the Homeless Youth Advisory Committee, I thank you for using your voice, dedicating your time, and exercising your leadership towards improving systems that serve children and youth.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Katara. Lauren, could you please now introduce the Advocate of the Year Award?
Yes, thank you, Avery. I am delighted to introduce our founder, Jim Theophilus. Every year, we give an award named in Jim's honor to an outstanding youth advocate who embodies the spirit of the Mockingbird Society. Like everything else, we're doing things a little differently this year, but on our 20th anniversary, the award still honors the qualities that Jim instilled in us: a can-do attitude, a focus on solutions, and a laser focus on the changes we want and need to see. I am honored to hand it over to Jim.
Hello, Aaron, Lauren, and everyone here today. Thank you, Lauren, for that remarkable introduction. I just can't say enough. I am really overwhelmed and touched by so much that's happened today. I want to thank Esther for the remarkable facilitation. This is one of my favorite days of the year, and I think by any measure, it's clear that there has been many legislative and systemic reforms that came
It looks like we lost Jim. Can other folks, are other folks hearing me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are hearing you, Lauren.
Okay. Jim, if you're there, I'm so sorry. You're frozen for us and we can't see you. We've lost you. If you're able to rejoin. Oh, please go ahead. Who is that?
This is Annie. I'm just going to go ahead and pitch hit till Jim comes back.
Perfect, Annie. Thank you.
So incredibly fortunate for the man named Jim Theophilus, who showed up 20 years ago. This is Mockingbird's 20th anniversary. And I can say as an alumni of CARE myself, without him, there would be no us. There would be no place for us to come together and create change for the young people who come after us. And Jim and I, and Jim, at any time interrupt me if we get you back online here, my friend. Without him to create this space for us, so many things would not have happened in the last 20 years. And when staff and Jim and I were really talking about the Advocate of the Year award, this year has been so incredibly difficult and challenging for everybody across the line that we have determined that every single one of our young people this year are the Advocate of the Year. Because without you now, there is no Mockingbird. And I know that may seem odd or unusual, but really there was no way to distinguish you all from each other because you all joined forces in such a collectively powerful way. And I am so grateful to each and every one of you for bringing forward these topics. And we're going to move them forward again this year. We got 5290 passed and no detention in a couple of years. And if we can do that, we can do anything. So the Advocate of the Year, the Jim Theophilus Advocate of the Year Award goes to every single Mockingbird chapter member and leader. Thank you all for everything you've done.
Congratulations to all of us for being incredible advocates this year. Now for another award. For the last few years, we've been honoring the dedication of incredible adult allies in our advocacy work with the ACE Award. This year, we want to honor the incredible work Pam Crone has done for young people in Washington. Pam started working with Mockingbird as our contract lobbyist in 2016 and has helped us successfully advocate for 10 youth-led priorities, $3 million in funding for shelter and housing services for youth and young adults experiencing homelessness, and evaluating and expanding Mockingbird Family. We could not have passed 5290 without her work. She was with us all 3 years we advocated for that bill, and her skill and tenacity and commitment pulled that bill across the finish line. During session, Pam is on the ground 24/7, spending long hours in committee hearings, meeting with legislators and partners, and making sure our bills are always moving forward. And on one occasion, she was even there past 3 a.m., waiting for a vote, showing her unwavering commitment to Senate Bill 5290. Pam is also a teacher at heart. She always takes the time to answer questions. She wants to make sure young people have the information they need to advocate successfully, and create space and meetings to make sure young people's voices can fully be heard. She takes the time to get to know people personally and goes above and beyond to help people out. During this COVID crisis, Pam has helped multiple chapter members connect with unemployment lawyers to help them navigate filing unemployment claims. Pam consistently has elevated young people's voices and stories in an affirming and positive way, with respect and dignity. This year, our ACE Award goes to Pam Crone. Let's give our Advocates of the Year and ACE awardees snaps and claps now like we did before. Unmute, then when I put my hands together, please mute again.
Yay! Congrats, everyone. So awesome.
Exciting. For those of you joining by phone, my hands are going together now. Thank you to everyone for being a part of our first ever virtual summit. And props to the facilitators, organizers, and tech support team for making it all run so smoothly. I think it's important that we acknowledge that we're in the middle of a pandemic, but we all still chose to come together today. That's powerful. It's so easy to feel like you have no control, no say in what's going on around the world and in our communities. So let's take a couple of minutes to focus on what we can control. I invite you to turn off your camera and close your eyes, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. Let's step out of autopilot to bring awareness to what you are doing, thinking, and sensing at this moment. Try to pause and take a comfortable but dignified posture. Notice the thoughts that come up and acknowledge your feelings. Attune yourself to who you are and your current state. We are going to breathe in and out 7 times for our 7 chapters. As I lead you through this breathing exercise, I urge you to breathe in all the possibilities of all our hard work and exhale the traumas of our broken systems. Breathe in legal representation for all youth in care. Breathe out youth not having any input in their own lives. Breathe in excellent medical resources for homeless youth. Breathe out being discharged without aftercare. Breathe in tribal youth being supported fully and equitably. Breathe out the barriers and challenges they face every day. Breathe in young people supported by their community through crises. Breathe out normalized police presence in our lives. Breathe in meaningful relationships with social workers. Breathe out case managers drowning in paperwork. Breathe in families supported equitably. Breathe out Black and Indigenous children overrepresented in our systems. Breathe in the potential for strong sibling connections. Breathe out families fractured by the system. Take one last breath to breathe in the positive changes we just made possible. Thank you for taking the time to change the future with us. Please turn your cameras back on now. Each and every one of us on this call contributed to this year's virtual summit in some shape or form. We all made this event happen. I'm thankful for all of you and appreciate each one of you. I look forward to the next time I can see you all in person. Now I invite you to unmute one last time and share celebrations and goodbyes.
Woo!
Yeah.
Good job, thank you.
Amazing.
Everyone.